Thank you. Good morning. My name is P. Nee, and it's wonderful to join you for worship today. Unitarian Universalist Church of Long Beach strives to be a welcoming and inclusive religious community rooted in love, trust, and freedom. And it's guided by our 8 Unitarian Universalist principles. Happy Father's Day to all our fathers and father figures in the congregation and our larger UUCLB community. We celebrate you and are grateful for you. Welcome to all those who are newcomers and visitors. We are so glad you are worshiping with us this morning. If you are interested in more information about the faith, please stop by the membership table after the service to fill out a goldenrod membership newcomer form, or scan the QR code on the order of service so we can follow up with you and welcome you personally. Welcome to children, youth, and families. Children over 5 through high school youth meet up in the lounge for a movie and popcorn. Rooms 2 and 3 are open for playtime for infants and toddlers. Please see our website, the monthly advance newsletter, and weekly announcements for more information about all of our programs and activities. Everyone is invited to join us for coffee and for conversation after the service. If you are joining on Zoom, please stay for our virtual coffee hour where you can chat with others in the congregation. Now let's take a moment to greet one another.
Do I not look good?
No. I just was waiting to see if you had something more to say.
Just a smile.
Good morning. Okay, if we can start taking our seats. We have a great service to continue, so if we could start taking our seats.
I'll see you some off the bell. Oh, look at it. It worked.
It did. I'm surprised. Good idea. Okay, so please see your order of service, online weekly announcements, and monthly advance for more information about all of our programs and activities. Thank you to everyone who pledged for the 24-25 year and has sustained our congregation with generous financial gifts. Our fiscal year is ending June 30th, so please complete your pledge commitments by then. Please contact Steve Fuller, our pledge secretary, if you are not able to complete your pledge or need to modify it for any reason. Thank you again for your contributions and support of our church. And I also have another announcement. The No Talent Show is on for September 27th, Saturday. So please, and it includes storytelling, so that's fun too. So I think everyone has a story to tell. So there'll be flyers, and you can see where to sign up, okay? And now, thank you to everyone who joined the No King's Day protests in Lakewood and Long Beach. We had a powerful turnout for our faith and values. As Cornel West has said, justice is what love looks like in public. We are uplifting Juneteenth this morning as a celebration of freedom and a collective charge to protect our democracy in peril. After the service, you are invited to join anti-racist activists Fred Kushner and Bonnie Coombs in sharing their stories of involvement in the civil rights movement. I am honored to speaker, Gary Frazier. Gary is a longtime member of the congregation who has generously served in many leadership roles, including preaching regularly and serving as finance co-chair. Gary will reflect on insights from his ongoing writing project, Civil, the War That Never Ended. He will be assisted by members of the UUCLB BIPOC Fellowship. BIPOC stands for Black, Indigenous, and People of Color. We also offer a special welcome to musicians Michelle Main Graves and the Lifeline Quartet, who perform spirituals from the Civil War era and before, celebrating code songs written as reminders and guides for the Underground Railroad. These spirituals include hidden messages about maps, navigational strategies, and timing for slaves to escape toward freedom in the northern states and Canada. In addition to directing choirs, performing spirituals, and helping to coordinate and lead veterans singing groups, Michelle supervises a team and works as the RN case manager for housing homeless veterans at the Veterans Administration in Los Angeles. Welcome.
Our chalice lighting words are adapted from Dr. Taqiya Noor. Amen. Spirit of life, as we celebrate Juneteenth, may we embrace our Black ancestors in this faith, learn from their legacies, and do all we can to embody the best of what they've given us through their sacred example. We call on the legacies of Black Unitarians, Universalists, and Unitarian Universalists whose tireless dedication to our free faith tread a path for us today. We welcome their spirit to come and dwell among us today, blessing our gathering and renewing our commitment to walk in their footsteps. We call on the memory of the Reverend Ethelred Brown, Louis McGee, Francis Allen Watkins Harper, Fanny Barrier Williams, Reverend Marjorie Bowens Wentley, Matthew Taylor, Elandria Williams, Reverend Chester McCall, Reverend Hope Johnson, and so many others. We send gratitude to these trailblazing ancestors whose service to our faith made space for people of color within their congregations and our larger association. It is on the shoulders of our ancestors we stand, believing today in the transforming power of love to make our congregation, our faith, a more just and beloved community. In the name of the liberating love that holds us close and sets us free, today may we join our hands, our hearts, and our voices to uplift freedom and celebrate Black life.
Good morning, church. The song that we're going to sing first is called Wade in the Water. Wade in the water, on the biblical sense, was talking about the pool of Bethesda, where when the angel touched it, a person could go in and be healed. But when you're talking about the Underground Railroad, it was telling the people when they were escaping to walk in the water so that the dogs would lose your scent. I'm sorry. It's just that in this time, in this era that we're in, it is so vital to listen to your heart, listen to what's not being said, and follow what you know is right. Wade in the water.
Wade in the water, wade in the water, chillin', wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Wade in the water, wade in the water, chillin', wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water.
See those men all dressed in white.
God's gonna trouble the water.
Well, it must be the children of the Israelites.
God's gonna trouble the water. Wade in the water. Wade in the water. Chillin', wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water.
See those men all dressed in red.
God's gonna trouble the water.
Well, it must be the ones that Moses led.
God's gonna trouble the water.
Wade
in the water. Wade in the water. Chillin', wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water.
See those men all dressed in blue.
God's gonna trouble the water.
Well, it must be the ones that made it through.
God's gonna trouble the water. Wade in 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 the water. God's gonna trouble the water. God's gonna trouble the water. God's gonna trouble the water.
Good morning. So now I invite you to settle in as you wish for today's meditation. Ancestors. Freeing yourself was one thing. Claiming ownership of that freed self was another. It's a quote by Toni Morrison. Dreaming. God of broken chains, on this day we remember. We did not know how it felt when the words of freedom came, what relief was felt in the body of those who made us, what disbelief, what joy, what sorrow. But would you allow some echo of it to resound in our bodies today? We gather not to honor freedom wrung, but in protection and continuation of it. Let it resound clearly as we join voices on this day. We pray peace and deep rest for our ancestors, those who labored without agency over their bodies for generations, and those who chose the sea. Holding memory, we proclaim we will not be owned. We marvel at the dreamers, those who clung to an imagination for liberation regained, those who fought, strategized, organized. Holding memory, we proclaim we will not be owned. We thank you for those who became our own historians, who preserve culture in whispers by moonlight transmitting song and name. Holding memory, we proclaim we will not be owned. We grieve for the brutality of families alienated from one another, the daughter ripped from her mother's breast, sister torn from brother, and we honor all the ways our people formed new familial bonds, rising to nurture children and impart tenderness on those the oppressors sought to harden. Strengthen our own bonds now, that the invisible thread stretching between each holy Black soul would be fortified by compassion and intergenerational healing. Holding memory, we proclaim we will not be owned. God, we pause for every broken, bruised, and lynched. There are stories that reside in our bodies, both known and unknown to us. Keep us near to our own flesh, that we will protect one another from the brutality of white capitalism. May the rest and care that were denied to our ancestors be found in us today. Holding memory, we proclaim we will not be owned. And this joy in us, this durable, defiant joy, would you shield it from the mouth of despair? Remind us that there is no void that can match the strength of our collective hope. Keep our songs alive, every verse, every dance. May our humor survive as we play and laugh. Show us the faces of joy, that all who dare encounter it will find themselves at home. Holding memory, we proclaim we will not be owned. Now may the same God who spoke to Harriet make the sound of liberation clear as night to us. May the divine hold us in the same holy darkness that protected our ancestors on the journey. And as we remember, may they shield us from despair, knowing that our story is more than pain. Ours is a story of dignity. Let us reclaim it. Ashe.
Songs of the Underground Railroad. They were songs of hope, songs of love, songs of resistance, songs of resilience, and songs of peace. This next song is called Steal Away. When you sang it in the church, Steal Away was like we just had a moment where we steal away and have peace in our heart and just a silent love that's cherished. But when they sang it for the Underground Railroad, they were saying, we're leaving. We're leaving tonight. Steal Away. When I arranged this song, I'm sorry, I used some chords that'll make you a little uncomfortable, but that's what it's supposed to do, make you a little uncomfortable. Steal away, steal away, steal away, steal away.
to Jesus. Steal away home. I ain't got long to stay here.
My Lord, He calls me by the thunder. The trumpet sounds.
The trumpet sounds.
The trumpet sounds within my soul. I ain't got long to stay here.
Green trees are bending, poor sinners stand a-trembling. The trumpet sounds.
The trumpet sounds.
The trumpet sounds within my soul. I ain't got long to stay here. Steal away. Steal away. Steal away. Steal away. Steal away. Steal away to Jesus. Steal away. Steal away home. I ain't got long to stay here.
That was beautiful. We know that our financial contributions to this congregation come from sacrifice and hard work. We are so grateful for this and commit together to ensure the funds we gather collectively do a greater good for ourselves and our world than we could ever do alone. May there be an offering to sustain and grow the life and mission of this congregation. May we give in love and hope. We dedicate these gifts, freely given and gratefully received, to our shared work, shaping a better world for all, and to spread its vision and its values far beyond these four walls. The information for giving can be found in the chat and on the screen. Thank you for your gifts.
Good morning, church. That song really lifted me up. Thank you so much for that. My name is Max Scott Barron, and I come to you with love. I want to also acknowledge yesterday's No Kings March. My husband and I participated in downtown Los Angeles with thousands of others, and it was nothing but awe-inspiring. Yes. My home city of San Diego had over 20,000 people show up and participate. So I'm very, very pleased. My pronouns are he, him. People often ask me personally, what is Juneteenth, even though it's been a holiday, I think, since 2019? And they often ask, should I care about it? Is it important? Well, I think it is important, and I'm going to give you a kind of a brief synopsis of how it all became about and why it is important. So what is Juneteenth? Juneteenth commemorates an effective end of slavery in the United States. Juneteenth, short for June 19th, marks the day when the federal troops arrived in Galveston, Texas in 1865 to take control of the state and ensure that all enslaved people be freed. The troops came to a full 2.5 years after the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation, where other enslaved people had already been freed. Juneteenth honors the end of slavery in the United States and is considered the longest running African American holiday. On June 17, 2021, it officially became a federal holiday. Thank you, Joe Biden and that Congress. Juneteenth 2025 will occur on this Thursday, June 19th. Confederate General Robert E. Lee had surrendered at Appomattox Courthouse 2 months earlier in Virginia, but slavery had remained reflectively unaffected in Texas until U.S. General Gordon Granger stood on Texas soil and read General Orders Number 3, and I quote, "The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with the proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free." The Emancipation Proclamation issued by President Abraham Lincoln on January 1st, 1863, had already established that all enslaved people in Confederate states in rebellion against the Union shall then be thenceforward and forever free. But in reality, the Emancipation Proclamation didn't instantly free any enslaved people. The proclamation only applied to places under Confederate control and not to slave-holding owners. Slave or rebel areas already under Union control. However, as Northern troops advanced into the Confederate South, many enslaved people fled behind Union lines. Juneteenth and slavery in Texas. In Texas, slavery had continued as the state experienced no large-scale fighting or significant presence of Union troops. Many enslavers from outside the Lone Star State have moved there, and as they viewed it as a safe haven for slavery. After the war came to a close in the spring of 1865, General Granger's arrival in Galveston that June signaled freedom for Texas's 250,000 enslaved people. Although emancipation didn't happen overnight for everyone, in some cases, enslavers withheld the information until after harvest season, and we all know why. Celebrations broke out among newly freed slave Black people, and Juneteenth was born. That December, slavery in America was formally abolished with the adaptation of the 13th Amendment. The year following, 1865, freedmen in Texas organized the first of what became the annual celebration of what was then called Jubilee Day on June 19th. In the ensuing decades, Juneteenth features music, barbecues, prayer services, and other activities. And as Black people immigrated from Texas to other parts of the country, the Juneteenth tradition spread. In 1979, Texas became the first state to make Juneteenth an official holiday. Several others followed suit over the years. As stated before, in June of 2021, Congress passed a resolution establishing Juneteenth as a federal holiday. President Biden signed it into law on June 17, 2021. Thank you.
This next song really resonates with me right now. It's called Hold On. It's a song of hope. It seems to me like this year, wow, so much happened. I live in Pasadena, so we started it off with the parade and mad traffic. Then we had the fires in Altadena. And then all of us at work, because I'm federal, could no longer telework, and we all had to come in. And now we can't go in because we have troops all on the back of our docks. So this song, it touches my heart because it's what we all have to do is hold on. You keep your hand on the plow and hold on. Noah, Noah, let me come in. The doors are fastened and the windows pinned. Keep your hand on that plow. Hold on. Hold on. Noah, done lost your track. You can't plow straight while looking back. Just keep your hand on that plow. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your hand on that plow. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your hand on that plow. Hold on. Hold on. Mary had a golden chain, and every run was my Jesus' name. Keep your hand on that plow. Hold on. Hold on. Keep on climbing and don't you tire. 'Cause every rung goes higher and higher. Keep your hand on that plow. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your hand on that plow. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your hand on that plow. Hold on. Hold on. If you want to get to heaven, let me tell you how. Keep your hand on the gospel plow. Keep your hand on that plow and hold on. Hold on. Now if that plow stays in your hand, straight in the promised land. Keep your hand on that plow and hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your hand on that plow. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your hand on that plow and hold. Hand on the gospel plow. Hand on the gospel plow.
Lifeline Quartet, y'all just are stirring my soul. You know, it reminds me of Sweet Honey in the Rock, I have to say. Yeah, it's that kind of music is how can I describe it? It's like a weighted blanket, right? It's heavy, but it's there to make you feel comfortable and safe. You know what I'm saying? It's its own thing. So I appreciate you. Definitely appreciate you. Before I dive in, I do want to say Happy Father's Day to all the dads and father figures. Quick Father's Day story. So this outfit I'm wearing was my father's. I borrowed it. He's alive. He's cool. I borrowed it in like '92 when I was in high school, and he never got it back. What's funny about it is that through the years, so once my young ones became high schoolers, they borrowed it. And I mean like one by one, like, you know, as they got old enough and big enough to wear it, they'd borrow it, and then I'd be missing the shirt, I'd be missing the pants, and I couldn't find it. And then after they moved on and moved out of the house, you know, then it found its resting place back in my closet. I look at this outfit, and I don't wear it often, but I'm like, man, this thing has been around for 30 some odd years, and it's been worn. And I'm like, this is some good fabric, you know. So, okay. Yeah. Just getting my technology set up here. There we go. Wars are supposed to end. They have treaties, surrenders, and declarations. They have victors and vanquished. They are, we are told, chapters that close firmly, conclusively, so that the next generation can move on. The Civil War, we were taught, ended in April 1865 when General Robert E. Lee surrendered to Ulysses S. Grant at Appomattox. Slavery was abolished, the Union was preserved, the nation healed, or so the story goes. But what if that was never true? What if the Confederate regime never actually surrendered, only shifted tactics? What if its white supremacist ideology simply went underground, only to resurface again and again, stronger, more sophisticated, and more embedded than before? What if the Civil War never ended at all, but merely changed forms? 1 year ago, June 2024, I found myself writing these words about the Civil War's lingering legacy and its embers that have wafted through time. About a week before writing those words, Trump had been convicted of 34 felonies. And for a brief moment, I felt vindicated. I felt relief. I thought, finally, there's some justice here in America. But that was a very brief moment. Because in the back of my mind, scratching at the door of my consciousness, was the history of whiteness. And it said, not only is this man not going to pay for his crimes, in this America, he could go on to be president. That thought is what triggered me to write, to explore a theory that I've had for many years. So this morning, I want to share my writings through this sermon. Today's sermon is titled Juneteenth, Celebrating Our Shared Freedom. Only it's not just about Juneteenth. Although Juneteenth is a celebration that is symbolic of the freedom granted to the formerly enslaved, this sermon is about how the freeing of enslaved Africans in America enabled freedom for all Americans. I call my writing project civil. Not just the one word, civil. When I named the project, it wasn't just to reference the war. It was because the word civil contains so much meaning. Civil war, civil rights, civil society, civil disobedience, civil liberties, civility itself. And I can't ignore the spiritual lessons in calling ourselves a civil nation while denying others their humanity. While writing, I've come to see history not just as a distant narrative, but as something very present, shaping our lives today. Juneteenth reflects precisely this complexity. A moment in our nation's story when something profound shifted, yet also a reminder that true freedom requires ongoing vigilance. You've already heard the story. On June 19th, 1865, years after the Emancipation Proclamation, months after the official end of the Civil War, and months before the ratification of the 13th Amendment in December of that year, enslaved people in Galveston, Texas, finally learned of their freedom. It wasn't just a delayed message. It symbolized how liberty and justice had been withheld, and how their realization was long overdue. Juneteenth means something deeply personal to me. My roots run through East Texas, on both sides of my family. That's where my mother's parents come from before heading west during the Great Migration, trying to escape the weight of Jim Crow. I've looked at the 1870 census and seen my great-great-grandparents listed as sharecroppers in Texas. And I often wonder, were they there that day in Galveston? They certainly had to be in one of the many towns in Texas as word spread throughout the state that week. Were they among those who heard the news and celebrated their first taste of freedom? I'm certain that they were. Just yesterday, we were at the Long Beach Juneteenth celebration at Rainbow Lagoon in downtown Long Beach. There was good food, good music, and hundreds of black people of all ages, just full of joy, celebrating what we call Freedom Day. So yes, Juneteenth is uniquely African American. It's part of my story. But there's something I've realized through reflecting on all of this. Juneteenth isn't just a day for African Americans. It's a day for every American. It's our shared Independence Day because it speaks to the very core of what America claims to stand for: freedom, equality, and justice for all. Unlike July 4th, which in 1776 proclaimed liberty while enslaving millions and extended rights only to white landowning men, Juneteenth represents a more honest and inclusive freedom, one that had to be fought for by the very people it had been denied. Juneteenth expands the meaning of independence by challenging us to make this country's promises real for everyone. While working on this project, I reflect on how the end of the Civil War didn't completely erase the ideologies it was fought against. Here's another quote. "History, if left unguarded, belongs to those with the loudest voices and the most ink, or in these times, the most followers. And if you're a billionaire, you just buy the social media platform." End quote. Robert E. Lee might have surrendered his army, but the beliefs that fueled his rebellion continued to fight in new forms. Beliefs that lived on in myths, stories they not only told themselves to feel better, but stories that made it into school books, the big screen, and popular media, all to shape public opinion in ways that would rob newly freed African Americans of their hopes and dignity. But as Lincoln prophesied, the degradation of black people opened the door to the degradation of all people, including the white working classes and ethnic immigrants. There are two primary myths that have a through line to current events. Myth number one, the myth of the lost cause. It romanticizes the Confederacy, portrays the South as a noble and honorable entity, fighting for its way of life and states' rights, of course, rather than for the preservation of slavery. Myth number two, the myth of white reunion. It emphasized a shared white identity, the idea that white soldiers on both sides were simply fighting for the same American cause. And it minimized the significant racial and ideological divisions that fueled the conflict. These myths developed into a distinct American national mythology, with a character that equates patriotism with the maintenance of white racial supremacy and treats democracy as a secondary value. Through time, this narrative has empowered whiteness, and granted a society that believes in whiteness the permission to ignore, to excuse, to co-sign, to create, and often perpetuate racist systems that are active to this day. We often find comfort in myths, simplified histories that make us feel better about our past. The lost cause narrative was precisely that, a myth designed to absolve and rewrite the history of slavery and racial injustice. Juneteenth invites us all to discard these comfortable myths and engage honestly with our history. Because when we embrace the truth, no matter how uncomfortable, we take meaningful steps towards genuine equality. That's why Juneteenth matters. It symbolizes our collective resistance against oppression, our commitment to confronting uncomfortable truths, and our determination to write a more honest American story. Juneteenth also serves as a reminder that freedom is an ongoing commitment. The echoes of our Civil War are still with us today. We see these echoes clearly in recent events, in voter suppression laws that disproportionately affect minority communities. Yeah, get some water here. In battles over the teaching of racial history in schools, and in systemic disparities evident in healthcare, housing, and criminal justice systems. These struggles reflect that we are still fighting the same battle for fundamental human rights, dignity, and equality. Juneteenth encourages all Americans, regardless of race or background, to recommit ourselves actively to the unfinished work of building a fairer, more inclusive democracy. The need for this work, our work, in today's political climate is evident, particularly in recent attacks on civil liberties enabled by the 14th Amendment. This administration's efforts to end birthright citizenship, dismantle the Department of Education, and finish the job of overturning Roe v. Wade, these actions represent signature Confederate strategies, historically rooted in white supremacist ideology that consistently aimed to strip away citizens' rights and civil liberties. Remember that the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments were all post-Civil War amendments enacted to ensure the rights of newly freed slaves. Here's a high-level summary. The 13th abolished slavery in America. The 14th granted citizenship to formerly enslaved, and in doing so defined what citizenship means for all Americans. The 15th gave newly freed men the right to vote. The 14th in particular was designed to ensure equal protection under the law for all citizens, specifically granting citizenship to everyone born or naturalized in the United States. Before that, they didn't feel the need to define who was a citizen or what protection should be guaranteed. Because up to that point, it was outrageous to think that anyone other than white landowning men had any rights. Not women, not children, no black, no indigenous, even poor white people had no protections under the law, certainly nothing codified in the Constitution. From the 14th Amendment, we've got the right to due process, birthright citizenship, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, Title IV, which prohibits sex discrimination in any education program. As for landmark Supreme Court cases citing the 14th Amendment, Brown v. Board of Education, Loving v. Virginia, protecting interracial marriage, Roe v. Wade, and Obergefell v. Hodges, which recognized the right to marry for same-sex couples. The 14th Amendment has long been a cornerstone for protecting civil rights. Historically, every significant advancement in civil rights, whether the abolition of slavery, Reconstruction, the civil rights movement of the 1960s, has been met with fierce resistance. From Jim Crow laws to Nixon's Southern strategy, Reagan's war on the drugs, and now this administration's war on DEI. These patterns are unmistakably clear. And it's important to recognize this current backlash for what it really is: a modern continuation of a long-term pattern of Confederate-inspired white supremacist reactions, with this current reaction being a direct response to the strides made by former presidents Obama and Biden. Understanding this political environment as a contemporary version of post-Civil War backlash is crucial for our collective awareness and continued activism. So today, I invite you to join me in seeing Juneteenth not just as a historical milestone, but as our collective Independence Day. A day that reminds us freedom is a shared responsibility. Justice is an active pursuit, and equality is not something we have fully achieved, but something we must continuously strive toward together. As I wrap up, I want to speak to the moment we're in right now, a moment that can feel heavy, divided, and uncertain. But even as we face voter suppression, book bans, ICE raids, and efforts to roll back hard-won rights, I want us to hold on to hope. Not a naive hope, but a grounded, stubborn hope. The kind that says, I see what's happening, and I still choose to fight for something better. Hope is not passive, it's active. And it looks like voting in every election, not just the big ones. It looks like protecting our schools and libraries, making sure that our children learn the truth, not because it's easy, but because it sets them free. It looks like forming coalitions across race and class to demand justice. It looks like honoring Juneteenth, not just with celebration, but with civic participation. And if I'm asked how this topic of Juneteenth, the Civil War's unfinished business, the ongoing fight for liberty is tied to my spiritual being, I'll say this. This work, this reflection, this message, it doesn't come from headlines alone. It comes from memory, ancestral memory, from my great-grandmother who fled the Jim Crow South with nothing but a spine of steel, a mind sharp enough to survive anything, and the courage in 1943 to be the first black person to purchase a home in what was an all-white neighborhood in Los Angeles, just a mile from USC. To know where we come from, to tell the truth about what we've lived through as a people and as a nation is not just a political act. It's a sacred one. And as I said before, I can't ignore the spiritual tension in calling ourselves a civil nation while denying others their humanity. Remember the myths and storytelling? Calling immigrants illegal, or Palestinian children terrorists, or black boys thugs, or trans persons pedophiles. It's all a precursor, a tactic for those who wish to do harm and erase the humanity of our brothers and sisters, a strategy to redefine what we know to be true, only if we let it. That tension between the promise of America and the reality of America is what activates my soul and sits at the center of my faith. A belief that we are all called to reflect the divine by honoring the dignity in one another. So this message today is not just political, it's spiritual. It's about refusing to forget, about speaking hard truths in love, and about believing that justice, when grounded in memory and fueled by clarity, is the holiest work we can do. Thank you for sharing this moment and reflecting on these truths with me.
That was a wonderful sermon, right on point.
Excellent.
This next song is a song of hope. It's called Down by the Riverside. If you know it, you can join in. It's going to feature our bass, George Hill. And this is my brother from another mother. And we both work for the VA. And this is my nephew, son. So he's my nephew, but he's my son. And his brother, Michael. This is Quentin Fitzgerald and Michael Fitzgerald. Okay. Gonna lay down my burden
Down by
the riverside,
down by
the riverside,
down by
the riverside. Gonna lay down my burden
down by
the riverside to study war no more. Well, I ain't gonna study war no more.
I ain't gonna
study war no more.
I ain't gonna
study war no more, my Lord. I ain't gonna study war no more.
I ain't gonna
study war no more.
I ain't gonna
study war no more. Gonna lay down my sword and shield
down by
the riverside,
down by
the riverside,
down
by the riverside. Gonna lay down my sword and shield
down by
the riverside to study war no more. Well, I ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more.
I ain't gonna
study war no more, my Lord. I ain't gonna study war no more.
I ain't gonna
study war no more.
I ain't gonna
study war no more. Gonna meet my loving Jesus
down by
the riverside,
down by
the riverside,
down by
the riverside. Gonna meet my loving Jesus
down by
the riverside to study war no more. Well, I ain't gonna study war no more.
I ain't gonna
study war no more.
I ain't gonna
study war no more, my Lord. I ain't gonna study war no more.
I ain't gonna
study war no more.
I ain't gonna
study war no more. Well, I ain't gonna study war no more.
I ain't gonna
study war no more.
I ain't gonna
study war no more, my Lord.
I ain't gonna
study war no more.
I ain't gonna
study war no more.
I ain't gonna
study war no more.
Thank you.
Wasn't this an incredible service? I just want to offer gratitude for everyone who has shared their voice this morning, to the Lifeline Quartet and Michelle Main Graves, for coming all the way down to Long Beach to share with us this morning. We just so deeply appreciate you, and I just thank you for the gift of music that you shared with us this morning. And for everyone who shared a voice this morning, now it is your turn. Now it is our turn to share your voice, because this is our shared responsibility. And so I leave with these words from Angela Davis. Angela Davis, whose most recent book is called Freedom is a Constant Struggle. Freedom is a constant struggle. You can pick it up if you want to. With our Juneteenth celebration, she writes, we memorialize those who offered us hope for the future and renew our commitment to the shared struggle for freedom. So today we extinguish our chalice flame, but not the light of truth, not the warmth of love or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you to everyone who participated, and in particular to Gary Frazier. I'm going to invite you, Gary, to stand up once more and receive gratitude from the congregation.